Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Mind Muscle Meditation. Today what I'm doing is I am continuing to put the emphasis on cooking your foods and meal prep. Today it's going to be meat and potatoes, as the title says. And the reason why I'm putting so much emphasis on this is because if you're a real natural bodybuilder and you're not a half natural, or someone that's clearly using SARMs or steroids or some other performance enhancing drug to get a advantage, you really have to concentrate on your meal prep. And you're not going to necessarily see a lot of very good videos out there for adequate meal prep, which is going to have all of your necessary micronutrition. And I want to put an emphasis on that because when you have extra testosterone in your body, which is going to be the primary substance that will be used if you're half natural or whatever, you're taking drugs to enhance your body, the micronutrition is really important. Of course you're going to need the macronutrition, but the micronutrition is really important, and that's why I want to emphasize on this. So I'm going to be making some meat and potatoes. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. It's really simple, and I think you'll learn a lot. And remember, potatoes have a ton of potassium in them, also a good amount of magnesium, and then the beef, which I'm using, is going to have a lot of zinc and some decent fats. So stay tuned. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 5 pounds of potatoes, and you can see that's quite a bit. I find that this is the easiest for making my meal preps last a really long time. And then what I do, it seems to be working for me, is I take 2 pounds of beef. And you can see that this one here is bison, which is really good. And again, it's 100% grass-fed organic beef. You wanna make sure it's 100% grass-fed, and it's 90% lean. And we're gonna drain a little bit of fat out of that to make it even leaner. But yeah, here's your staples, meat and potatoes. So stay tuned. All right, so it's no mystery that meal prepping is a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. So anything that you can do to kind of shave off a few minutes or a few seconds, this is what I do. So as you can see, I cut up the potatoes in approximately 1-inch cubes, and I keep everything together so it goes a lot quicker. So I just do 1 down the side and then 2 down the middle, and then boom, you have a potato already cut up. And the reason why I cut them up and boil them is because my thought is, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but my thought is that since I'm not going to be cooking them to smithereens, and I'm basically just boiling them enough to get them so that they're chewable, and obviously cooking the bacteria out, my thought is that my body will be able to break down the potatoes a little bit easier, and most of the nutrition, such as the potassium, is going to be absorbed a little bit easier. Now, obviously, you've probably heard that you don't want to overcook your vegetables, because any cooking of the vegetable is going to take out nutrition. You're going to be removing that micronutrients, and again, the potassium being some of the most important, as well as your other vitamins. But my philosophy is that perhaps the same thing is going to be happening with the potatoes. So that's why I go ahead and cut them up, cook them as pretty much as little as I can get away with while still being able to chew them. And yeah, so I'm just following basically the protocols of how I would cook vegetables. And just a side note real quick, while I'm doing this, you guys may already know that I do not like to cook my vegetables anymore. What I do is I like to buy the frozen organic vegetables. My staples for vegetables are going to be spinach, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts being the cruciferous vegetables. And those I am literally going to defrost. I will literally have them in the fridge from the freezer defrosting. I don't cook them. Sometimes I do eat them cold. If I have to run hot water over them just to get them to defrost so that I can have a little bit easier time chewing them, that's fine. But even if they're a little bit cold, I'm gonna get a slight thermogenic advantage just from my body, you know, having to cool down the broccoli. So I don't even really mind too much. I suppose that you could argue the fact that, you know, if it's too cold, it might be not being absorbed into the system as well. But your body's pretty much 98 degrees, 98.7 degrees. And by the time you get your nutrition into your body, and it's past your stomach and into your, you know, large intestine and small intestine, I mean, your food's gonna be pretty warm no matter what. So I don't really think that that's much of an argument, but you guys let me know what you think. As you can see, just in the time that I've been talking to you, I have quite a few potatoes already done, and this is a fairly large container. I only have a few more in the bowl, and so the potatoes will be set to boil pretty fast, and then after that we're going to be getting on to the beef and the bison. So we've got the potatoes and we've got the meat going here. I'll go ahead and show you. I've got both burners on. There's the potatoes, and here's the meat over here. And so what I like to do is I like to take this guy right here, and I just like to, you know, chop up that meat pretty good, kind of like this, and make sure that I'm getting, you know, the meat kind of separated as much as possible. It's a little bit hard for me to hold the camera and do this at the same time, so please just kind of bear with me here. But as you can see, I'm just kind of chopping it up, getting it to cook as thoroughly as possible. So another thing that I like to do is I like to take these guys right here. This is a peanut butter jar, and as you know from my other videos, I prefer the glass as opposed to plastic. Plastic's pretty estrogenic, so anytime you're putting, you know, a hot food in plastic, it's gonna kind of seep out some of those plastic contaminants, carcinogens, where glass is not going to do that. And so the jar that I just showed you is a large peanut butter jar, and that will hold about 2 pounds of meat pretty easily. And since it's all cut up like what I'm doing, it's going to be very easy to measure out 2 ounces of meat. And as I kind of told you guys last video or the videos before there, I really cut down my protein intake, probably about 150, 170 grams of protein per day. I'm only weighing in anywhere from, you know, 170, 180, really about 175 right now. So that's adequate, and I've been upping the carbs and the fat. So one reason why you're bulking, why this is good, is because with your protein, you burn about 34% of that calorie just in the digestion process. So it's not a very efficient macronutrient. And what I would recommend is, instead of going overloading the protein, which you don't need, is really just causing extra stress on your metabolism and your digestive system, is to go with better fats, more fats, and more carbs. Carbs and fats, you're only burning about 10% of the macronutrition within the digestive process. So it's a lot more efficient than the protein. And typically the fat and the carbohydrate sources are going to be much more nutritionally dense. It's going to carry a lot more of that micronutrients as opposed to the protein. And second of all, when you up your good fats like the olive oil, you're getting the omega-3s, fish, salmon, beef, you know, you're getting, let's see, olive oil, beef, fish, and eggs. That's my primary source of fats. You're getting a lot more hormonal support for your natural testosterone levels within that fat content. So that's why I'm a fan of lowering the protein intake to an adequate amount. Most people around 130, 150 milligrams grams of protein. And then the rest of your diet, based on your exercise and your macro needs, is going to come from carbs and fat. Okay, so as you can see, the meat is starting to cook. We're starting to get some of the water out, some of the fat is cooking down. Just continuing to do this process here, cutting it up, making sure it's cooking thoroughly. And this is also an effort to get it to cook as quickly as possible. And as you guys can see, I only have the heat on medium, so it's not too bad. Also, I do want to mention that by cooking the meat in this manner, it cooks a lot quicker, so it's more about time efficiency. And over here, you can see we have the potatoes are still cooking while we're cooking the meat. And as soon as the potatoes, I can take a fork and stick that through, and it just kind of goes through easily. It's not like mashed potatoes or anything like that, but as soon as it can just kind of, plunge into the potato, and that pretty much means it's cooked. You wanna have a little tiny bit of crunch, but not much. So as you can see, the meat is just cooking away here, and I'm about to flip it over. And you're probably thinking, oh man, well, you could have, made a nice juicy beef burger or bison burger, and that is true. I could have taken this out to the patio and grilled it. But the problem is that it's not quite as efficient as this means. And when you're going through so much food, so much beef, I mean, even when I'm only having 2 ounces of beef per meal, you still end up going through it very quickly. You can have a burger for a special occasion, sure, but at the end of the day, you're trying to make your meal prep as quickly as possible. So what I like to do is I like to just cut up all my meat in like little chunks, so I can just divvy them out like you've seen on my other video with that glass jar, and I can quickly just shake out 2 ounces. I have it all. I have all my meals ready to go, and my scale is ready there. So I just shake out 2 ounces, boom, 2 ounces, boom, 2 ounces, boom. Make 3 meals at a time. All right, guys. So we're getting ready for our first strain, and the reason why I strain is number 1, it takes out fat, and number 2, it cooks faster with less water. So I just go ahead and run the water on cold, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do. The reason why you want the water on cold, by the way, is so you don't clog up the drain with hot grease. So you can rinse down the grease a little bit easier. So all you do is you take your meat, you take your plate, and you go like this. And you start straining out the fat. And as you can see, there's a lot of liquid coming out. And I do like a little rinse just to get the liquid a little bit more slippery. And then I just continue to pour it out. And then what you can do, you take a little paper towel, wipe off the sides so you don't burn any or make a mess, and then boom. Your meat is a lot drier and ready to be cooked a little bit more quickly. All right, so everything's going pretty well. You can see over here our meat is almost done, and our potatoes are looking pretty good too. Good little tip, which I forgot to do this time, is you could actually salt the potatoes before you're boiling them. So that's kind of good. Kind of get that salt deep within those potatoes and give it a real good taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and check on the potatoes, take my fork and sink it through, see if it's at the proper, if it's been cooked properly, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I appreciate it. I'm pretty much done here. The only thing that I need to do is cook the potatoes a couple more minutes, and then I'm just going to let them cool off, run some cool water over them, and that's pretty much it. I've got my 3 meals ready to go here. So 1, 2, and 3, and then for storage, the potatoes will go in here, and then I've got my scale ready to measure out my potatoes and my beef. So meat and potatoes, bison or beef, 100% organic, 100% grass-fed, 90% lean, and then don't forget to drain that extra fat. And that can make your beef a much better bang for the buck, as opposed to going with more expensive meats like salmon, for instance. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. You get a higher protein content now, lower fat. You're still getting all the zinc from the beef, so it's really great. Meat and potatoes, guys. Thanks for joining me on Mind Muscle Meditation. I'll see you next time.